Good afternoon, everyone, to another exciting episode of BWHR Voices. Today we have with us Mr. Nirav Jagad, CPO, Sugar Cosmetics. Nirav, we welcome you on board. It's a pleasure for us to be speaking with you. And considering that, you've taken out time for us, especially for this conversation, so, we're highly obliged.
Not at all. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation about subjects that are very pertinent to our area of work. So yeah, pleasure being here.
Same here, same here. Thank you so much. So, for
Yeah.
people who do not know or are intrigued about what exactly we're going to talk in today's episode, so today's conversation is from employee to entrepreneur. How employers should support their employees in their side hustles. Just a brief background or a summary of what exactly we'll be talking about in today's session. So, in recent years, the concept of side hustle has gained popularity as more people seek to supplement their income or explore their passions outside their main jobs. Side hustles are also known as freelance work or gig economy jobs. They can provide a sense of autonomy and creativity for employees while also offering financial benefits. However, balancing a side hustle with a full time job can be challenging for employees.
Yeah.
Gig economy continues to grow, and employers who support their employees' side hustles, will be better positioned to attract and retain top talent in times to come. Because employees are of the feeling that side hustles are not always to have, financial gains. It's got something also to do with their passion. So, today's generation and today's employees expect their entrepreneurs to be supporting their side hustles in a way that they do not feel that their passion has died out once they've started to work. And this is exactly, Nira, what we're going to talk to you today about, and we need your insights on what are your thoughts about this topic.
Sure.
How can an employer encourage their employees to pursue their side hustles while still maintaining a productive work environment?
Sure. All right. Is that the question straight up?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me elevate the conversation to a little higher level and say that if you look at what we are at as an economy, as a country, we are possibly witnessing a massive uptick in our economic activity. We are experiencing a massive upsurge in the sheer excitement that the talent has with this confidence in our ability to do a lot more. And I think these are phenomenal signs, right? Our startup ecosystem today is one of the most vibrant startup ecosystems in the world. And anybody and everybody who's part of this ecosystem owes it back to this ecosystem.
Exactly.
Right? And I think if we keep that lens and that principle in mind, it always makes sense to always contribute back to this ecosystem, right? If you look at our economy has been filled with entrepreneurs, barring a few initial years when people found solace in government jobs and found safety and security there. But today you see people coming from not so entitled backgrounds, coming from very humble backgrounds, still have that fire to go out and do things on their own. Some of them are actually not taking up a well-established business, legacy businesses, and still choosing to take that more difficult choice and go out and prove themselves all over again. I think it's a great positive sign for us as an economy, as a country. And we should do all that we can do in our powers to support this. So in principle, if you ask me, yes, we should contribute to this. We should make active contributions to anybody and everybody wanting to further the effort that has been made already by us in the last decade and a half in the startup space. So yeah, I mean, every organization should put their hand up and say that, okay, let's think about it in a concerted manner.
But don't you think that, while an entrepreneur can be supportive of the side hustles, but it may also affect the productivity within the, own work environment, and, something might get hampered because at the end you have those 24 hours, of which 8 hours of sleep is something that is required by a normal human being. And then rest of the
That's true.
time we divide amongst the travel. Now, I mean, we're blessed with the hybrid work setup now, but are you also of the same belief that entrepreneurs might also be, or employers might also be in that dwelling up situation wherein they might feel that, what if we support and what if we lose out on the productivity, and then at the end we're not able to match up the expectations?
See, Sugandh, there's no single answer to things, right? You
Okay.
can't have a solution which is always one faceted. There's always at least two facets to the same solution.
Mm-hmm.
And the other facet that you bring in, we spoke about the first when I responded to your question.
Yeah.
This is the other part as to how do you balance it out. You can't have workforce just jettisoning their current employment and throwing caution to the wind and going out and doing their own thing, because at the end of it you're getting paid for something,
Exactly.
right?
That's
So that's
that's
the
the mindset.
first commitment you have first commitment that yes, an organization that's paying you
Mm-hmm.
for your services, skills, capabilities that you bring to the table, you have to respect that. Yeah. So while organizations will do and should do all that in this is in their power to reasonably support initiatives like this, it is upon the workforce as well to reciprocate with equal maturity, responsibility, and being transparent about such aspirations and engagements. Right? It may not be completely in the benefit of the organization and thereby in the interest of this kind of initiative that employees or workforce kind of takes advantage of this and starts compromising on what their full-time engagement is, and start hurting the organization in the way they would have probably not wanted.
Okay. And do you also feel that as an employer, there must be certain challenges as well that you might be facing while supporting your employees' side hustles? And what are those some of the common challenges that employees also face when balancing their side hustles with their full-time job? So it's question from both the ends, from an employee as well as an employer's perspective, because we need to understand both
Okay.
sides of the coins.
All right. So let me just take this question a step back and respond to it, and then we progressively address both the forks. Let's look at it in terms of what's this whole gig about, or what's this aspiration about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe that a person cannot be a single faceted human. You always have some other capability in you, which you can put to good use, whether you get remunerated for it or you choose not to get remunerated. And I think,
Okay.
at this point, I'm not trying to make this as a commercial aspiration, but I'm saying this is more of you fulfilling one innate aspiration in you to say that, yeah, I want to do more than just doing the job that I'm doing. And I'm sure a lot of people do that, right? I mean, people support NGOs, pet animal causes, environment causes, cleanliness causes, and so on and so forth. For now, we can, bundle all of that under this bucket of, gig.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it from an employee standpoint, the idea is to say that, okay, fine, if I'm working for about 9 hours in a day, how do I find that extra 2, 3 hours to find some time, energy, and focus to pursue something else? Or do I utilize my weekends? Because a lot of organizations that we are talking about could be actually strictly 5 days working, or somebody could be 5.5 days working. So how do I balance out that remaining time that I have to pursue something that I want to do more, right? Whether that completely pans out for you to take up that as a full time, I think it's a matter of your experimentation and the success that you receive while pursuing that, or your intent to actually go full time on that path. But I think from an employee standpoint is, do really have the resources within me to pursue that gainfully? One. From an organization standpoint, I think the biggest concern that organizations face is transparency. Number one, right? We would want to know if you're trying to do something which we should know about, right? I mean, if you go back from work and you continue to, teach children, in a night school, by all means, why would an organization be bothered to know? And, if we get to know, great, we will acknowledge and we'll probably even support that. But we have no business asking about that. But if you pursue something that's, that you would think that we should support, then I think it's important that, we should be told about that in a transparent manner. And we should have a conversation around that to put down some guardrails to see what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And, both sides should be clear about that.
While I completely agree with your viewpoint, but there's certain organizations or employees that also feel that, if you're doing something as a side hustle, shouldn't be in direct interest of what your organization is doing, because then the problem of data privacy comes in. So how can we address
Okay.
that issue? Let's say I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to pursue my career in cosmetics only, but then you might feel that it's in same interest of what I'm already doing with your organization, and your data might be breached at some point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how to address such an instance?
See, I think, and this is again, I'm going back to the first response that I had is transparency and trust, right? I mean, when you get freedom, uh, freedom also comes with a lot of responsibility, and one of the responsibility is to respect the organization, respect the interests of the organization. Like, if you look at an organization, assuming you're working in an organization of about say 600 odd people, we are talking about 600 families, right?
Right.
Right. And there should not be any iota of doubt in anybody's mind that one or two people can get away by harming the interests of those 600 families by hurting the organization in the pursuit of their own personal ambitions, right? Because safeguarding your business interests is fundamental right of an organization. If somebody's going to pursue a gig assignment with a directly competing organization, fundamentally that's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, because and it becomes even more important if you are in a function which is strategically important for the organization. Say, for example, if you're in a leadership position, would an organization be okay for you to pursue a similar role in a competing organization, though on a consulting assignment? I don't think so, right? Then why does a separate logic need to be applied at a more junior level where somebody actually could be, say, for example, if I have a small strategy team, and this team though may comprise of some mid junior level individuals, they would still be privy to a lot of important data. Now, if this person goes and starts consulting with a competing organization, worrisome. It would be worrisome, right?
Okay.
So organizations have all the right to safeguard their interest first, because they are not only accountable for all the numbers that we talk about, they are also fundamentally responsible for those 600 families and the food on their table and the livelihoods that are being provided. So as an organization, we do have a bigger responsibility, and fundamentally speaking, I think we should have the right to protect our business interests.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you also feel, Nirav, that there should be certain measures that should be kept in every organization in terms of a policy to be followed while an employer is supporting an employee's side hustles? Because very rightly said, freedom comes with responsibility, wherein there should be a certain link of checklists that should be followed, that if you're following all these aspects, if you're following all these minute details, we're ready to support you. Of course, trust and transparency comes as the first. But apart from that, do you also feel there should be some other measures that an employee needs to keep in mind, knowing the fact that my employer is readily supporting my side hustles?
Yeah. See, Sugandh, what happens is that when you operate at a scale, intent cannot allow for uniformity. Policies on a document do, right? So you have to put things on paper, and you have to communicate it very clearly and set expectations and boundaries very clearly to say what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. In paucity of that, people will operate to what they think is the best boundaries set by himself or herself at that point in time. And what that is very subjective, right? So you have to clearly articulate that and tell people that what is acceptable according to our mutual terms of engagement is this. If you go beyond this, then you're treading in the realm uh, of non-compliance with your commitment to the organization. You are within those boundaries. We have no problem. And these are the things that we'll do to support you in your gig. And these are the things we'll do if you operate beyond the boundary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which means there should be certain things that should be streamlined.
It has to be clearly stated. Like, say, for example, in an organization, when you say that, okay, we are opening work hours. Now, work hours also some guardrails have to be mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of productivity and so on and so forth. So it's very, very important because this concept is not completely settled or mainstream as yet. And hence we have some distance or some time to go ahead of us before we start believing that people understand what this is all about. Right?
Okay.
Until then, this is going to be an education experience for all organizations as well, right? Organizations are also experimenting. They are also trying to figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. Some organizations, which is out in the public, that they have taken a stricter stance on this. Some organizations have been far more lenient and accommodating of this. But again, they do have put guardrails in place to clearly state what is okay and what's not okay. So if this has to scale and if this has to flourish, which it should, then in that case, we need to be clear about what we really want out of this and what we clearly don't want to allow.
Nirav, our conversation is also driving us to a very similar concept that erupted, few months back in the HR fraternity itself, was moonlighting. People have misunderstood the concept of moonlighting and side hustles, because side hustles can be non-monetary while moonlighting is completely on monetary terms. But don't you think that if passions are paid heed to, there will not be any such concept of moonlighting? Because as you said, if organizations thrive on creating a culture wherein trust and loyalty and transparency is there between employees and employers, so then there won't be any moonlighting, because as Premji clearly stated that it is a no policy for him. He doesn't see this as a very positive aspect or something working in a very positive manner for any organization to thrive. But it is just a question that has come out of curiosity that if passions are paid heed to, then there won't be any moonlighting.
Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting response from me, because there are multiple layers to this, and I'm going to touch upon all of those. So let's just break this down. Let's talk about first the non-remunerative effort, right? I mean, I'm purely driven by my passion, and I feel very strongly about a passion. Like, say, for example, if I'm really passionate about pets and stray animals, I could be doing anything, right? In my personal time. And as I said earlier, organizations should have no problem with me pursuing that, because it's my personal passion. I'm not getting paid for it, right? So that's one. Second, let's look at the more hybrid version of it. I have a passion which is very different to my professional skill. Say, for example, if I'm I'm a full-time finance expert, but in part-time I play instrument and I teach instrument and I take classes for it over the weekend, and I teach all age groups to play that instrument for this matter. Say, for example, if it's a dhol. So while I'm getting paid, but it's got nothing to do with the organization or what I bring to the table for the organization. It's in no way competing with the organization, right? So that's the second variant of it. The third variant of it is that I could be using my core skill, which is, say, finance again, okay, taking that same example, and I could be helping an NGO put their finance structure in place. This organization, and assuming that, like, for example, I'm a fintech organization and I'm supporting an NGO. In this case, should the fintech organization have an issue? Maybe not. But does this require disclosure? Yes, it does. Right? It does require disclosure, and it does require some guardrails to be accepted on both ends, to know that, because you're operating from a finance team, none of our data should be spoken about or shared or anything, and business models and so on and so forth. All of that needs to be just as abundant caution. The fourth variant, which is actually the more troubling one, is that I take a job as a finance consultant
Exactly.
with another emerging, you know, seed stage fintech organization. Now, assuming I'm a Series C or Series D fintech, I'm a mid-level person. The seed stage organization has onboarded me as a finance expert. And here there is a conflict of interest because my core skill is being utilized by a directly competing organization. And here the organization should have the right to step in and say, hey, this needs to be reported and this needs to be discussed because in all probability we'll have issues with you pursuing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where it becomes little tumultuous for both parties, which is the employee and the employer, is where somebody is commercially engaged to utilize a core skill to the role in the organization in a directly competing environment. So when all these three conditions meet, organizations will have an issue.
Of course, that's bound to
Yeah,
happen.
it's bound to happen because, yeah, I mean, let's understand, right? I mean, see, we said that I want to pursue my passion, which is great. You should. Um, See, in today's business, the work is demanding, right? It is demanding, and we work hard. We really drive things with a lot of passion, and there's a lot of um, effort that an individual makes to be successful in the role, right?
Right.
After that, if you still have energy, and I'm using the word if with a very heavy if, then please go ahead and pursue things, right? And we can't just simplify this, as easily as it might sound in this language right now. Some people drive energy from doing that
Mm-hmm.
extra work, driving passion. They might just see this as a recharge of batteries for the coming week and months and so on and so forth. People view it very differently. And this is a very individual call, right? So I think whether to pursue a passion and to what extent to pursue that passion is a very individual call.
Mm-hmm.
And organizations will do well to just know about that and be very clear about where to step in and where not to step in. As a lot of those examples I've already referred to, so I don't think we need to really mull over that any further. It's fairly clear there. But again, I think it's very individual as to what energizes you. You choose. You spend your energy, time, money, resources, and do that and pursue that and see how that works for you. Maybe you feel energized. If you feel drained, stop it. Right. But what's important is that the organization will expect you to be fresh and really look forward for your contribution to the full tilt when you come back to work on Monday.
And how about, asking and knowing your views on if passions are supported, then moonlighting won't exist. What's your view on this?
I don't think they're binary.
Okay.
I don't think they're binary, right? Passions don't necessarily lead to moonlighting from whatever I've read so far. A lot of people have taken, made excesses out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes it's I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but it's because it's not been defined.
Mm-hmm.
People may have taken liberty to say, hey, I mean, I'm doing it on my private time, so what? And it's not as easy, is it? Right? So people need to really be mature, considerate, and respectful of where you're getting your primary source of income, and then jump at the secondary source of income, as enticing as it might sound. But the fact is that the primary source of income still contributes to the large part of your paycheck.
And that needs to be, dealt with proper loyalty and honesty, as you said.
I wouldn't say loyalty. I would say respect. Respect
Okay.
of respecting that organization's rights and concerns. Loyalty is a very evolved term. I wouldn't want to use it in today's times because I think the definition of it is changing. But I would say that yes, I think you should respect the organization's interests and do everything in your power to not harm those.
Nirav, if we were to take 5 key takeaways from this session, from this conversation, what would that be?
Number one, organizations need to start thinking about this as a way to engage their talent in, right?
Okay.
And not make it gimmicky. I think, I think we should stay away from that. Otherwise, that's what you will get in return from the workforce. So
Okay.
that's one.
Okay.
Second, think through all the processes that you would want to put to ensure that there's enough clarity on both ends. Yeah.
Okay.
Third is work towards contributing to the larger ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth, I would say that the employees need to really step up and use this opportunity to do right by themselves and by the organization.
Okay, which means to create a balance between both, of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's actually also an art, the balancing the two, because when you are taking that additional gig, then the art of balancing is something that's going to keep you afloat.
Yeah, I think it's very important. And fifth, but by no means any lesser than anything else, is the fact that I think this then needs to elevate at a national level discussion at some point where, we as an economy should be able to really, if you look at some of the laws that are coming in, gig workers and others have been brought into the fold, but we should work at making this as a more mainstream, because we should be allowing for fluidity of talent movement. And that will only augur our economy, our vibrancy, and our ability to get a much higher quality of talent. Because every time people move and gain new skill, they're going to become even more valuable.
All right, Nirav. Thank you so much for sharing out such insightful thoughts, the anecdotes that you've shared, the analysis that you've shared with your examples and experiences as well. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure for us to be talking to you. People who have questions, they will be having questions because we had such an intrigued conversation. You're happy to tag him on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter. Post him the questions. He'll be happy to respond. It is a very, I feel personally coming from, yes, you spoke more from employer's perspective as well as balancing both, but from an employee's perspective also, I feel that in this hybrid space also, wherein I feel as an employee that I have ample space to pursue my passion and talent, it is equivalently a very intriguing conversation that was to be held, and we had to have solutions to it. Thank you so much, Nirav. It really helped people like me and all the other employees who are actually, delving deep into such kind of conversations wherein they feel that they shouldn't be sounding disloyal to an organization. But you rightly said, it's not the term to be used, here. It's not, if things are pretty transparent. Yeah. So, but then thank you so much, Nirav. It was pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure's mine, Suman. Thank you so much for having me over. And happy to engage with people. I think it's always good to be chatting about these things. I'm more active on LinkedIn than Facebook. So I'm just a bit of a heads up on that.
People you can hear directly now from the horse's mouth. He's more active on LinkedIn. Please ping him. Please put questions to him and he'll be happy to respond to all your queries.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care. Bye.